Good morning, all. It gives me an immense happiness to welcome you all to the 12th session of the 3-day International Virtual Conference on Gender Studies. I am Amala Thomas, and I will be your moderator for this session. The chairperson for this session is Dr. Prashant Subhash Rao Mote, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Adarsh Mahavidyalaya, Omega, Maharashtra, India. I welcome you, sir, to this session. I also welcome all the participants. The participants are M.M. Rahman, Dimple Amskaria along with Dr. R. Gino, Ms. Arvinder Kaur Pabla along with Mr. Tushar and Ms. Monica Sharma and Professor Vikram Singh. And here are some guidelines that each participant should keep in mind. Participants are requested to keep the time limit of 10 to 12 minutes for their paper presentations. Q&A session will be conducted after the participants have presented their papers. Participants are requested to ask their questions intended for the Q&A session either by unmuting their mic or by raising their hands, since there are some technical issues with the chat box. Over to you, sir.
I heartily welcome all of you in the paper presentation session. Actually, there are 4 paper presenters. I request one after another to present their paper. As I am traveling, so there are certain possibilities that I may disconnected with the session. But anyway, I am keep listening all the session throughout till I think Vijender Singh. Okay, first first of all, I would like to invite M.M. Rahman to present paper on LGBT and queer groups. Is M.M. Rahman in the room? Amla ma'am?
Sir, I think he's not here.
Okay. So may I invite next presenter Dimple and Dr. R. Gino to present his or her paper on constitutional rights and social.
Am I audible? This is M.M.
Yes,
Rahman.
yes, yes. Yes,
Yes.
yes, you are audible now.
Yes, thank you. So actually, I was not able to unmute myself. That's why I couldn't
Okay. Not
reach
an
to all of
issue.
you.
Go on.
Thank you, sir, for your kind introduction, and I thank all the team members of this organizing committee to give me chance to read it. My paper is very brief in nature, and I talk about the LGBT and queer groups, conflict, cohesion, concern in the new age world order. My abstract is something like this. Mankind is the self-expression of eternal quest to perfection. It creates thousands of others within its capacity. In the present pandemic to pan-academic neo-normal, the split personalities are sprouting out in split seconds, distorted and queer in its organizational orientation. The global workforce or workplace is an organization. The perspectives on behavior patterns in such scenario is something which cannot be ignored to irrationality or interclass conflict. This paper is an effort most humbly to incorporate or anticipate measures to avoid social distancing of the better class from their better counterparts. In other words, thinking some out-of-box solutions to create better results in the management and development of the new age world order. The key words are self-other, neo-normal, social distancing, this global workforce, and the new age world order. The methodology have been taken by me is secondary data collections from various resources. Objective is to first to see the problems of the transgender community, then to make the society aware about these problems and all through various things, and then suggest some kind of some kind of measures to improve their conditions, and then conceptualize the world order, the new world order of new global workforce. I start with a poem. The poem is something like this. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? So dream is something that never lets us sleep, but if the being and becoming through the sustained set of acts, the existence is mired with consistent bitterness. The perfection that eternity craves through humanity comes under scrutiny. The great dynamics of power and powerlessness in a society, protecting and perpetuating the male or masculinity, and the conflict emerging therein necessarily brings to the forefront the need to critically rethink and reconfigure the issues of gender and sexuality. The society we are in is a society where categorization of male or female permeates at every level. The sexual orientation categories based on the gender binary system are disrupted by gender diversity. Gender diversity provides a challenge to the gender binary system in number of ways via intersex, third or other gender, gender fluidity, positions outside of gender, gender queer, etc. Transgender, the concept of transgender itself challenges the normalization of gender binaries. In India, various socio-cultural groups of transgender like Hijra, Kinnars, Shiva Shaktis, Jogtas, and many are there from time immemorial. But atrocities and identity on their violence on their identity, trauma, pain, agony, these are nowhere decreasing down right from the beginning only. Then this pandemic situation has created a kind of trauma and pain and suffering and questioned the selfhood and subsequent development. During this COVID pandemic situation, one question that comes in our mind, that is this pandemic an end in itself or a kind of premonition and preposition for some future catastrophe? At the same time, the COVID-19 has showed that the powerful is not always powerful. It is rather more than powerless. So the survival anxiety emerging out of it focus the endless debates between the relationship and functionality between man, man versus society, man versus nature, man versus machine, world versus outer world, good existence versus bad, evil machinations, birth versus death versus rebirth, time past versus present versus future, and perhaps many more. In this critical background, when the existence of human being comes under scanner, the politics of social segregation and marginalization seems to be suicidal and hence at most be avoided. The population pressure and gradual diminishing of resources in earth accelerated in such a way that the alternatives further has been already search has started, and exploring the space possibility of space going under ocean has already been started. Even one scientist, Stephen Hawking, said that within next 1,000 years, if we do not colonize the space, then human civilization may be extinct. So in this critical situation, although in our country and the world there are this great background of the presence and historical records of LGBT groups are there, right from Mahabharata, Sikhandi, then Lord Rama's that incident of blessing auspicious occasions like childbirth and marriages and inaugural functions, to this particular group because they did not leave him at the time when everyone left him. Then in Islam also a prominent role can be found in Ottoman Empire, in Mughal rule, also in medieval India, and even in other religious beliefs and systems also their presence is seen. And India, recently we have seen that the section 377 has been decriminalized. That is a very good gesture. And due to Honorable Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Ratanlal Kataria's 2019 July 18 announcement, July 17 announcement regarding incorporating and strengthening diversity and inclusion in corporate sectors, that created a kind of good movement, good gestures, like a company like Godrej, and then a company like IBM, Accenture, they started creating a workforce of far more kind of neutrality, kind of you can say compatibility and all. Then governments, local governments, state governments, they also have came up with issues wherein, like government of Odisha has Sukriti smart cards programs and all, orientation programs by Anganwadi centers, SHGs. So these are some good gestures that we have seen in recent time. Even although we have seen that there is poor presentations of this particular group in school textbooks and all, recently CBSE has come out with a gender studies course, which we hope that in future will create some kind of sensitization. And while discussing issues like intercourse, reproductive system, puberty, the kind of male and female binary when it comes in class, then the other part, the other section is not seen in good face or good gesture. So I think those things will also be going away from in years to come. Then the kind of self, the reflective self, the spiritual self, the physical self versus psychological self or sex, this kind of things that comes out, that should also be taken into considerations. And the barriers like physical, cultural, language, emotional, gender, perceptual, organizational barriers, that these all must have to be cuttled down. Now the last part of my these words, this talk, is this kind of planning of a knowledge society and a healthy workforce. As the need of constructing a habitable planet is more important than anything, a knowledge-based society with enlightened minds, happy families, and healthy workforce has become the only alternative. Focus, consistent, and committed approach towards developments is the key. So we can to develop the community and to create a kind of better sensitization, we can create the platform of community radio where they can take part. We can create a positive representation in the advertisement media. We can also create a desirable human being in the society, a human being which is not engineered to to celebrate some pseudo triumphs, but rather some kind of real achievements and all. Then social media handles can be used 24 into 7 through different apps for to generate some support system, educational, counseling, guidance things and all. Then invigorating a kind of dream, passion, and professional credentials of to the community, because they are good in certain folk cultures and those things, and can be looked after. At the same time, if any disorder like this post traumatic stress disorder, any disorder comes, that can be looked after by the communities or the kind of groups, SHGs. Then the intelligence, which is existential intelligence, that has to be applied. And then visualization, flexibility, likability in hybrid digital workforce, this has come nowadays, hybrid digital workforce, wherein conflict management, that is meeting, discussing, deliberating, settling, and celebrating, this thing has come. So there is no way that any kind of community, third gender, LGBTQ or whoever can be being pushed into the margin. There is no way of that. And then effective service leaderships that are coming nowadays, like cognitive competence, then emotional intelligence, spirituality, and moral character build up. And by building all these, creating a very healthy workplace, which is not based on fear, but based on collaboration, based on cooperation and more participations, these are coming. And so my last part and conclusion is that the time when world will be world sans discrimination, the prevailing unhappiness, discomfort, and dissatisfaction will certainly come to an end, and there radical change in the mind of the people, and all gender, class, creed will join their hands together in safeguarding the cause of the beautiful planet. So I started my paper with kind of discrimination, and then I carried forward, and I ended with a kind of visualizing a kind of workplace or workforce of the world of unity in diversity. And I finished with the T.S. Eliot's famous 3 lines from Ash Wednesday, wherein he says, "Because I do not hope to turn again, pray for us sinners now, and at the hour of death, pray for us at the hour of our death." Although I should not be that much cynical that the hour of death has come, but yes, the pandemic has shown that any time there can be an end. So it's better to create a healthy workplace, healthy work order without any discrimination. Thank you all to listening to me and giving me chance. Thank you.
Hearty congratulations, sir, for your outstanding paper. And actually, you bring to in front of us conflict, cohesion, and concern in the new age world order regarding LGBT and queer groups. Okay, thank you for your you really added value to our now knowledge. Now, may I invite Dimple and Dr. R. Ginu to present their paper on constitutional rights and social stigma, a study of truth about me, a Hijra life story. Over to you, Dimple and Dr. R. Ginu. Are they in the room, Amla ma'am?
No, sir, they are not present here.
So may I invite another?
Yes, sir, of course you can.
Code Tushar and Monica to present their paper on gender in Blade Runner series.
Hi, good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very good morning to all of you. So, the title of our paper is Gender Sentiment Spectacles in Blade Runner series. And along with me, there are two more contributors Miss Arvinda Kaur Pabla, Master Coach, Center for Language and Communication, SGT University, and Miss Monica Sharma, Master Coach, Center for Languages and Communication, SGT University. So before just starting with the paper, I just want to give you the summary of both the series, both the movies, Blade Runner 1 and 2. So in Blade Runner 1, it's a cyberpunk vision of the future. A man has developed the technology to create replicants, humanoid androids with short fixed lifespan, which are illegal on Earth but are used in the off-wild colonies. And in Los Angeles, which we can see in the movie, Los Angeles, California, 2019, Deckard, Blade Runner, the main protagonist, we can say, a cop who specializes in terminating replicants, and he is forced to come out of retirement when four replicants escape from an off-world colony and come to Earth. Further talking about the second part, or you can say the sequel of the movie, that is Blade Runner 2049, where a different officer named Officer K, a new Blade Runner for the Los Angeles Police Department, unearths a long buried secret that has the potential to plunge what's left of society into chaos. His discovery leads him on a quest to find Rick Deckard, the previous Blade Runner, a former Blade Runner, we can say, who's been missing for 30 years. Talking about the central idea of a paper, we're actually examining the narrative and non-narrative aspects of the movies and utilizing Donna Haraway's critical concept of cyborgs in the analysis. The attempt is to reveal how the female cyborg is presented in these movies. The writer will the writers will argue, although through the female cyborg's body, women can liberate themselves using the technology. Yet, the dominance of male gaze has prevented it from happening so far. So I'll just begin with the first part, or you can say the first topic. It's a patriarchal society, which we can see in the movie. There are certain evidence I will talk about from the movie. The clearly dystopian world of Los Angeles in 2019 has a patriarchal tendencies that are clearly visible. According to Barker and paper 2004, patriarchy is a social order in which social institution and social practices are dominated by men over subordinated women. Females living in patriarchal society is seen from the structure of a business and law and order institution. One other example from the movie is Mr. Tyler leads the Tyrell Corporation and Neander Wallace head Wallace Corporation. Replicant have been designed by a female, that is Jeff Sebastian. Police department has male heads. Blade runners are male. In fact, no female character is shown in law enforcement. Even among replicants, Roy is the leader, and females like Zohra and Pris are in supportive roles, who are more vulnerable and need to be avenged. Positioning men as a leader refers to the concept of patriarchy, which is male-headed family, mastery and the superiority. The fact that these movies follow the concept, therefore Los Angeles of 2019 and 2049 can be called the patriarchal society. The second important aspect of a paper is the technology and patriarchy. The extreme long shot is used in order to capture the society and the city. Through this shot, the surrounding primarily fills the screen. It captures the futuristic cityscape which represents this city. The holographic figures are shown in a large size and more than once to emphasize that the technology has dominated the city. The cityscape is also dominated by a gray color, which is associated with technology and machinery. Furthermore, the use of technology is considered to be patriarchal, which means the domination of men. According to Toffletti, her paper 2007, she mentioned that technology is used by men to maintain their power over women, who have a position of passive victims under patriarchal control. They exclude women from technology and consider as separating them from their true form, which is nature and body. As a result, the technology means to be patriarchal. Thus, it gives more emphasis that the society in Blade Runners is a patriarchal society. Further, talking about Donna Harvey's look at the cyborg, or you can say the female cyborg, when she was introduced by Penelly in interview, when asked like, "So your cyborg is definitely a female?" In answer to this question, she mentioned, "Yes, it is a polychromatic girl. The cyborg is a bad girl. She is really not a boy. Maybe she's not so much bad as she is in shape, or you can say she's a shape changer, whose dislocation are never free." So, in the interpretation of what we can interpret from her word is like a new entity emerged, one that is not dependent on a specific set of physical parameters, but rather on character, personal goals, and whims. Harvey's cyborg is born out of contradiction, confusion, and mess. Uh, I'm just talking about certain evidences we are just pick up from the movies. Like first one is Harvey's in-depth description of Cyborg City begins to match element in the replicant condition, in particular in the character like Pris in the movie. The second one is Andrew Ross introduces the idea of Harvey's manifesto being a kind of bad girl manifesto because it's about pleasure and danger. The third one is breaching this old boundary is the task of a bad girl, that is underquote like oppositional. Further, the subordinative character like Pris, Zora, and Rachel dwell on a more distant fringe and contain the greatest transgressive potential that is never actualized. To talk more further on the evidences, like in technology, representation, and the feminine, Mary Ann Donne points out that Blade Runner's women are all replicants. Minor female characters are human, like the eye patch wearing liquor vendor, the fish manufacturer, and the various denizens of Teffy's bar. All the major female players are all manufactured and all physically attractive. The replicant's beauty is a point of great debate. Thompson locates all the sentiments with a sexual subject slash object equitation with Deckard, himself, and viewers. The further more important point, or you can say the turning point of a paper, is like the scopolia pleasure bending towards narcissistic identification. Like during an interview, Denipier asked the director of the movie, the question is like this: the female replicants at least are capable of having sex. Do you think they have the capabilities of enjoying sex and actually having orgasm? And in answer to this, what he mentioned, Ridley Scott, I have never went into this much in detail either, but I guess that if Tyrell went to the trouble of making perfect replicants, that he had taken into account their sexual capabilities. For obvious reasons, maybe some female replicants like Pris were employed in military camps on space bases and were constructed for specific sexual purposes. That's a very fantastic way, or we can say a very sick one. And I don't really like discussing this particular further. In answer to the second question, when uh, Descartes actually asked this question, Descartes finds himself sexually attracted to Rachel. Was it your attention to have male viewers find themselves attracted to the three female replicants in order to further diminish the distinction between human and androids? Further, to answer this question, he just mentioned, no, I just happened to cast three actresses who are rather beautiful. Anyway, if you are going to make female replicants, why would you want them to be ugly? The question is like, why would you want them to be ugly? Like further, to continue the further, the portrayal of female replicants in the movie, fates in the movie depict something on the contrary. Like Zohra, a skilled homicide detective, is forced to become a sex worker. Pris was designed to be a pleasure model who was posted in army camps to give sexual pleasure to the soldier. Rachel has to unwittingly becomes an object of desire for Deckard. Basic question by Scott like why would you want them to be ugly? Stinks of his true view of female replicants that they have made to be looked at. And finally, like how the sentiment begins negotiate these spaces decides the cyborg city or lack of it as coded by Donna Harvey. The last part of a paper which includes the gender construct, or you can say duality or binary based reinforcement. Blade Runner 1 and Blade Runner 2, both the movies, not only impose firm, heavily controlled bordered gender construct on characters, but sexualize most of the women. And in Blade Runner 2, deviated from the foundation to make female reproduction the cinqua non-defining feature of humanness. These directors reinforced and exaggerated gender constructs. Anatomically very rigid representation and creation of replicants, Deckard Roy is a tall, well-built, adventurous progeny of fighter, and Rachel is soft, beautiful with coiffed hair and docile. In Blade Runner 2, Kay is again a copy of Deckard, whereas Joey, again a hologram companion, does everything in feminine way as dictated by the societal construct. Further, if we look at the characters shown in the movie, these are like morely based on societal construct demands that a man takes and a woman gives. Following scene like from the Blade Runner 1 showcase and reiterates a visual imprinting on the same. There's this scene in the movie as well, a 2-minute clip, which talk about the sex between Deckard and Rachel looks like rape. Deckard kisses her, but she initially walks her away, perhaps trying to escape. He then grabs her and pushes her against the wall. Is she crying? It looks like it. He says, "Now you kiss me." And she replies, "I can't." He says, "I want you," and say, "You want me." These scene exemplifies the male gaze in filmmaking designed by mostly men for what was assumed to be a mostly male audience. In Blade Runner 1, women are white except for brightly lit sexualized Asian female images on the wall of skyscrapers. Several interesting features of Blade Runner 2 involve the male gaze, advances in sexualizing women, and the use of gendered intersexual constructs. Officer K lives in partner Joey is a devoted Spanish accented hologram who can cook dinner, change clothes within second, and respond to K's every whim. Further, all the main female characters are immaculately dressed at almost all times except Pris, who is shown to be a fight model of the replicants. But even Pris dies at the hands of Deckard and then has to be avenged by Roy. The unimaginative portrayal of replicants shows that the directors were making the movie with male audience as central because male gaze has been utilized and followed in each and every female portrayal. Camera highlights the feminine attributes of the female characters and make them more alluring. Those differences depict women as sexualized object for the male gaze enjoyment. As stated by Laura Mulvey, I quote, "In a world ordered by sexual imbalance, pleasure in looking has been split between active male and passive female," underquote. She mentioned that women in narrative cinema have one role as a passive erotic object for the male gaze of female, I just repeat, object for the male gaze of male spectators. The way Zoe is portrayed, the camera movement, and wearing various costumes is purpose to fulfill the male gaze portraying as her as a sexual object. The concept of cyborg itself is used by Harvey to emphasize that women are able to liberate themselves through the technology that casts them as the subordinate one. It is a hope for women liberation since cyborg is not a gender biased. Furthermore, the technology is means for women to enhance their ability and overcome oppression. Harvey's concept of females reaching their full potential using technology is not really possible in both the Blade Runner movies, as the male gaze aspect of the movies puts the male at the center and enforces duality, takes away the fluidity of sexual representation, or maybe just redefining the preset role. To conclude our presentation, we have just few important points. Like the Blade Runner 1 and 2 are basically based on patriarchal society. Second one is all the female characters are some way dependent on male characters to protect them or to give them some orders. Physical appearances and dresses of the female characters are highly sexualized. Replicant models created are idealistic romantic version, pleasure models, ultra fight models, within your face declaration of female empowerment. And the last one, like for Donna's Harvey vision of female cyborg to become true, female and technology have to come together without preset expectation. So that's it from our side. Thank you so much.
Hearty congratulations, Arvinder Kaur, for your outstanding presentation. Actually, you really pointed out how there is a gender discrimination in Blade Runner series. Now, may I invite the last paper presenter, Professor Singh, to present his
Yes,
paper on Punjabi culture. Are you there, sir?
yes, sir.
Okay. Go on.
Good afternoon,
Go
good
ahead.
afternoon, all of you. Today my topic
Okay.
is Punjabi culture. Professor Bikramjit Singh, SSD College Barnala, from Punjab. Culture of Punjab encompasses the spoken languages, written literature, cuisine, science, technology, military warfare, architecture, traditions, sacrifices. Value and the history of the Punjabi people native to the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. The term Punjabi can mean both a person who lives in Punjab and a language. This name originates from the Persian language Pan, fire, and Ab, water in Rigvedic times. This area was called Sub-Sindhu or Seven Rivers, illustrating the extent of undivided Punjab. Indus River, the largest river in the five river system, and the five other rivers to the south eventually join Indus or merge into later to the downstream of the Punjab Valley. All the rivers start and flow out of the Himalayas. These five rivers are Jhelum River, Chenab River, Ravi River, Beas River, and Satluj River. The culture of Punjab in the Middle Ages was extremely diverse, dependent upon an individual caste, community, religion, and village. An array of cultures can be found historically. The main cultures that arose in the Punjab during the medieval age of the beginning of this era was of strong Indo-Aryan dominance. Due to the large number of Punjabi peoples distributed throughout the world, especially Pakistan and India. Many peoples are increasingly experience the culture and become influenced by it. Glimpses of traditional Punjabi culture can be seen in the Western world. Example US, UK, Europe, Canada, Australia, Africa, and the Middle East. Naturally, people influence each other wherever they settle and live. Punjabi culture is evident from Punjabi philosophy, poetry, spirituality, education, artistry, music, and architecture. Similarly, migrants by on invasion into the Punjab gender studies in the past many centuries were the Aryans, Dravidians, Scythians, Portuguese, Armenians, Greek of Alexander the Great, which reached as far as the Beas River in the Punjab. Mongols, Arabs, Persians, Afghan, Turco-Persians, Mughals, and the European British came to Punjab for various economic reasons of their own and its fertile agricultural lands. And evidence of water resources in the five large rivers flowing down from the Himalayas through the Punjab Valley. These immigrants influenced the people of Punjab and in turn were influenced by the prevailing culture of the Punjab. Punjabi culture is a Bhangra art form that is increasingly listened to in the West and is becoming a mainstream favorite. Punjabi music is used by Western musicians in many ways, such as mixing it and other compositions to produce award winning music. In addition, Punjabi classical music is increasingly becoming popular in the West. Devotional songs are played by Tadi Jatha groups with instrumental like sarangi and tud drums. Owing to the long history of Punjabi culture and of the Punjabi people, there are many dances normally performed at time of celebration, including harvests, festivals, and wedding times. The particular background of the dances can be non-religious and religious. The overall style can range from the high energy Bhangra men's dance to the more reserved Chumar, Gidda, women dance, and Malwai Gidda is a form of dance can be performed by both men and women together. So the Punjabi language is written with the Gurmukhi alphabet in India with the Shahmukhi alphabet in Pakistan. Approximately 130 million people speak the Punjabi language. based on folk talks rewritten by the poet Varisha in 1722-1798. Soni Mehiwal and Mirza Sahib sung by late Al-Nawar in Pakistan. By the 10th century, many Hindu Nath poets were associated with earlier Punjabi works. Among the major Punjabi poets are Baba Farid, Shankar, Baba Guru Nanak, and Bulle Shah. So today's my topic of conclusion the tradition dress of for Punjabi men and the kurta and helmet being replaced by the pajama in India. The tradition dress for women the salwar very popular in all the world. Punjabi celebrated cultural, seasonal and religious festivals which included Maghi Mela, Chiraga Mela in Lahore, Lodi, Holi, Eid, Baisakhi, Tੀਆਂ, Diwali, Dussehra and Guru Nanak Jayanti. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hearty congratulations for your outstanding presentation on Punjabi culture. Now, at last, I would like to thank the president of Cape Trust for giving me an opportunity to chair such outstanding paper presenters, chair the papers. Thank you, sir. Now, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for handling this session smoothly. Thank you so much for taking the time for our session today. We are so pleased with your presence. I also thank all the participants for presenting their papers. Sincere thanks once again. Have a great day ahead. And that's the end of the 12th session. Now we are moving on to next session. For to continue with that, I call Minna ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Amala. I hope I'm audible to you. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, next we are moving to the fifth plenary section, and I would like to introduce Dr. Narmeen Mohammad Kamal Shalabhai. She's a doctor of applied linguistics, curriculum, and TEFL Faculty of Education, Damietta University, Tamiat, Egypt. She's a lecturer, a global keynote speaker, and leader, and an academic and educational expert. In 2021, she got PhD Applied Linguistics in Curriculum and TEFL Faculty of Education, Damietta University. Her supervisors said about her, she is a gifted researcher. She attended and actively participated in some academic workshops. In 2021, she was appointed as a global community leader to Global Education Network. She received a SKIDS International Educators Award of Honor in 2021, that is, Dynamic Faculty of the Year 2021. Certificates of appreciation for being a global keynote speaker in the global virtual conferences. So I hope she is here now, and I welcome you, ma'am. Over to you. I hope she is here. Yes, Dr. Narmeen Mohammad Shalabi. So I hope she is here. So I welcome you, ma'am.
Yes, welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, it's audible, ma'am. It's audible. It's all to you. You can turn on your camera and you can speak up.
Okay, please. Welcome, everyone. Good morning from Egypt. I'd like to express my thanks, appreciation, and gratitude to the Department of English for the wonderful invitation to the International Virtual Conference about Gender Studies. This is Dr. Narmeen Mohammad Shalabi. a Doctor of Applied Linguistics, Curriculum and TEFL Faculty of Education, Damietta University, Egypt. Today we are going to talk about gender equality, the fifth goal of International Sustainable Development Goals. It's not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. It is the equality between men and women. By planting the idea of respecting human rights deeply into society's soil, gender equality means an equal
Excuse me, ma'am.
visibility.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, yeah.
Kindly turn on your video so we can easily see you. Kindly turn on your video.
Video.
need to be-
Okay.
Thank you.
I think there is a technical problem. I open
No,
video.
ma'am. We cannot see you. We are not able to see you, ma'am.
You can see
Just
me.
turn on your video. No, we can see you. So just turn on your video so we can able to see you. Yeah.
You see me?
No, ma'am. Yeah, you can continue, ma'am. You can continue. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, ma'am.
Okay. Gender equality means an equal visibility and empowerment, responsibility, and participation of women and men in all spheres of public and private life. It also means an equal access to and distribution of resources between women and men and valuing them equally. So let's say that there is a relationship between democracy and gender equality. They form a mutually reinforcing relationship in which higher levels of liberal democracy are a necessary but not sufficient condition for higher levels of gender equality and the physical security of women. Genders should have the same opportunities in life, whether in careers, raising children, or issues of sexuality. We should avoid gender discrimination. This is due to it has a significant impact on mental and physical health worldwide. So, some people believe with the phrase to be equal was to be enemies. Some women are their own worst enemies in their gender's fight for equality. It's easy to see that as women, we have always had the power. Yeah, the hardest part about owning power is using it wisely. The pandemic has led to a steep increase in violence against women and girls. Many women are trapped at home with their abusers, struggling to access services that are suffering from cuts and restrictions. To overcome this, for example, United Nations Women has developed a rapid and targeted response to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on women and girls, and to ensure that the long-term recovery benefits the long-term recovery benefits them focused on 5 priorities. Gender-based violence, including domestic violence, is mitigated and reduced, and also social protection and economic stimulus packages serve women and girls. Also, people support and practice equal sharing of care work, and women and girls lead and participate in COVID-19 response planning and decision making gender. So, there are some challenges that face gender equality. The first challenge is the risk of violence by men against women. For example, violence by a family member, sexual harassment, abuse by authority figures, trafficking for prostitution, and child marriages. The American Civil Liberties Union struggles for a world in which women and girls live free from violence by challenging discrimination against survivors of violence in housing, employment, education, and government services and benefits, and by holding governments accountable for responding to and taking proactive measures to stop the cycle of violence. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and other forms of gender-based violence deprive women and girls of their fundamental ability to live with dignity. Women and girls experience domestic violence and sexual assault at alarming rates. Governments and institutions, laws, policies contribute to the systematic devolution of the lives and safety of women and girls by failing to respond to gender-based violence and discriminating against these subjected to such violence. Okay. Another challenge that faces gender equality is women's economic independence. To overcome this, we should have equal access to the labor force, participation by part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and self-employment. This provides an opportunity to work on a more flexible basis. So women economic empowerment need to access to income and assets, control of and benefit from economic gains, and power to make decisions. Also, there are some benefits from gender equality. In general, the first benefit is improving organizational performance at work. This is the first benefit. This benefit runs by the process through performance improvement cycle. by setting goals, feedback, and coaching, and positive reinforcement and rewards, and achieving desired outcomes as persistent effort and improved job performance and job satisfaction. Another benefit is increasing the attraction and retention of young talents that provide an equal chance of career progression and promotion. This is helps in understanding how they look for new job opportunities, prioritize gender diversity, particularly among management, formalize flexibility and work-life balance policies, and encourage mentorship, sponsorship of women, and cooperate social responsibility and promote leadership and lifelong learning. Another benefit is making the environment regulatory and all the companies take the lead and develop parity in terms of jobs and salaries. The first one is promoting innovation at workplace because of the diversity of mindsets and knowledge. So let's ask how to promote innovation and innovative thinking in any organization. This is achieved by foster organizational warmth, by this is supportive, approachable, and amicable. There is positive contact between employees. Individuals feel supported by their peers, and if everyone is on the same side. It also happens by encouraging tolerance for failure and ambiguity. Employees and leaders are treated with care, interest, and emotional intelligence. It's alright to be wrong. Social activities that enhance trust are desirable and help loosen up strict hierarchies. It also happens by nurturing a long-term future orientation. So, organizational members should be united by a vision that carries the organization forward. The present is a time in which the future is crafted. Optimism nurtures motivation and ideas. Also, I wanted to move to talk about women's empowerment in the digital age. The women's empowerment achieved by reviewing policies and strategies related to the information society and ensuring access to internet communication technology by women and girls, and ensuring women and girls have the necessary skills and the knowledge to understand, and promoting women in the technology sector, at least building a partnership and the platforms for cooperation. And thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So this